Welcome to Event Experience by Bizzabo, the podcast where we bring the best and brightest event experience leaders together to share stories, tips, and lessons learned from creating some of the world's biggest events. I'm Rachel Moore, your podcast host. If you heard our recent episode recapping our webinar, The Future of Event Networking, Smarter Matches, Better Conversations, you'll recall today's guest and the insights he shared about improving audience experiences. Will Curran, Bizzabo's brand ambassador, is back with us today to expand on how networking has to improve in hybrid events, how speakers and staff engage with attendees, and how to help people navigate multiple networking spaces. Where there's a will, there's a way for a better event experience. Welcome back to a new episode of Event Experience. We are the podcast bringing you all the smart people in the events industry, and I'm bringing back a friend of the pod, a friend of Bizzabo. He's not just a friend, he's the brand ambassador of Bizzabo. So this is going to be a Bizzabo rich, podcast episode, but also very events rich. We're going to talk about all the things, and it's going to be great. But I know I teased this out. He is the brand ambassador of Bizzabo. He leads the charge to bring Click Smart badges to the world of events. If any of you listening have ever experienced a Click Smart badge, then you're going to know exactly who I'm talking about. He's also spent nearly 2 decades, people, shaping the future of events, working with global brands like Amazon, Google, Louis Vuitton, Warner Brothers, and even Uber to deliver transformative event experience. We're about to make this experience transformative for you. I'm very pleased to welcome back to the pod, Will Curran. Will, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Rachel. It's so stoked to be here. You know me, I love dropping knowledge bombs and getting everyone excited about events and giving everybody the spike of caffeine through the ears that they didn't know they needed.
I love it. And also, you are probably one of the only podcast guests I have on that can match me for a studio look, but exceed me. Nay, you exceed me. And if anyone, we do have the video versions of these podcasts on our YouTube channel, but you should definitely take a look at Will's setup. You look like you are a part DJ, part event master. I think that's what you're going for.
You know exactly what I'm going for now. You know, I got the LEDs behind me to be the click badges that are all lighting up, and yeah, like this is the jam. This is the setup. I'm ready to bring the energy, whether it's through music, through knowledge, or just general excitement.
Awesome. Well, we are generally excited to have you here. And Will, first of all, this is not a new question to you because I've had you answer this before. In fact, on the webinar you were just on. What are your favorite go-to on the ground event day shoes? 14 hours or more, what are you wearing?
Yeah, I think I told you, like, I do the color branded shoes, I think was my answer.
That's right.
I will put this out there. I am looking for what my next pair of shoes are going to be. So find me on LinkedIn. Tell me what to do. Everyone's been telling me, like, Hoka shoes are pretty amazing. But, like, I look at their website and I'm like, too many choices, right? Like, I get paradox of choice 100% on there. So, like, I'm always looking for, like, the best thing. Like, I think I may have talked about this on the show, on the webinar. If those who know me know this, I want the best thing that can eke out, like, 0.1% more happiness or performance or whatever from it. And honestly, shoes are just so complicated. It's such a personal relationship. But like, if someone can say to me, like, definitively, I've researched and tried a million different shoes and I've watched a million reviews on shoes, I will get this. I'll just do it. I'll just literally send it, buy it, give it a try. And, if it doesn't work, then figure it out. But I'm looking for better shoes for sure, especially because I need to find myself some new pair of shoes real soon.
We have to create the meeting between your dream pair of shoes and you. So we'll help foster that. Absolutely. Exactly. Is there anything that you're watching, reading, or listening to these days that you cannot put down? And it doesn't have to be events related.
Yeah, I am constantly consuming movies. Tonight, 28 Days Later is coming back into theaters for the first time. And it's like impossible to find on any streaming services. And I've never seen it, believe it or not. And you got to get ready for 28 Years Later. So watching that. Mission Impossible is the day after that. And we're going to see it IMAX,
Nice.
Opening. I'm a big movie buff. I haven't been reading as much. I'm looking to get Books Palma. It's like an Android device with an ink display. So I can start reading on that versus my phone more often. But I will give a shout out to a non-obvious show that people need to check out called The Studio. Apple TV Plus is an amazing streaming service. If you're not subscribed, if I got rid of all my streaming services, HBO Max would be hard to get rid of because I love Last of Us and a few shows that are on HBO
Yeah.
Max. I'm a DC Comics nerd, right? So I got, it'd be hard to give that one up, but Apple TV Plus, I absolutely cannot give up. It's just got some of the best content, and the studio is completely underrated right now.
Ooh.
Last of Us is great, but the studio is all about Seth Rogen's like a studio executive and the behind the scenes behind movies.
Oh.
And he's I'll give it a tease for one of the episodes. I think it's the second episode. They do one called like The Oneer, I think it's called, or something, and it's all about like one shot takes and the stress around shooting a long scene that's a one shot.
Oh.
And what's amazing is that I'll give it away because I don't think it hurts it too much. Is the entire episode is one single shot,
Oh my
and
gosh.
so you get to see this amazingly complex, like seeing him moving around. There's a point where like Seth Rogen gets hurt, and that's obviously planned, and that's part of it. And I think that's an amazing thing. That's a meta commentary on what it takes to do these really elaborate one shots. And I think a lot of event people will really like it for that aspect.
Yeah.
It's also just hilarious. If you love movies, you have to check it out. And honestly, I think it's an incredible show. I think that everyone needs to watch.
Well, now I'm fascinated. I've been very stingy and haven't done Apple TV, but I think I might.
Ooh.
All the ones I've heard
Best
about.
sci-fi. I'll give a rapid fire. So get Apple TV Plus. Watch Silo. What's the other one? Dark Matter. Obviously, everyone loves Severance. I think season 2 is a little bit worse than season 1. Ted Lasso. I think the first 2 seasons are incredible. Third season really struggles, but
Yeah.
like the Apple TV is one of the few ones that I can open up and just guarantee it's gonna be good.
Yeah. I've heard that too, and I think their marketing team's finally like, hey, we should tell people that our stuff is good. And
Totally. And they're like, it's something like they're losing millions and millions of dollars from it. I'm just like, please do not cancel this. Like, luckily, Apple has, like, compared to Google, no offense to anybody who is from those companies, but like Apple's very much like, we're here for the long run,
Yeah.
and they'll see it through. But I'm really excited because like Silo alone is an amazing sci-fi show, and they just renewed it and said, we're for sure going to finish the entire books and all the series, and committed that only after 2 seasons. And I think a network that's willing to commit to say, we will see the story completely through is what we need more of, than less of those shows that are like, and you get hooked on it and it gets canceled.
That's right. That's right. Or it's just a remake of something you already saw.
Oh my gosh. New IP, new properties too. Like let's all start to like pay and give money to anytime it's a brand new fresh idea, especially, book adaptations are great. I love again Silo, but like if Mickey 17, if you didn't see it in theaters, like let's celebrate these new ideas.
Yes.
Let's celebrate risk.
Yes, I love that. Again, mic drops all over the place. These are so good. Is there a particular social post or a piece of media or even a hot take about events that you found interesting lately?
Oh man, I purposely don't have social media. I'm on LinkedIn. You all can find me on LinkedIn. I try to stay as active as possible, but even then, like I really resist in a lot of ways. I try not to doom scroll through feeds. I do Reddit, which obviously is full of hot takes all the time.
All the time.
But for me, I think probably where I'm seeing a lot of the hot takes right now, I think we may have talked about this in the past before, but I don't pay 100% attention always what our industry is doing. I try to look outside. So like right now, I'm really focused on where AI is going and how this is all affecting it. But what's really interesting, I think, right now is that we're in this like agianic future of where potentially AIs could be doing our tasks for us. And what I think is going to be very, very interesting to see is the hot take of like, what if we see this future that we see is clear, we think is going to happen. What if it does actually happen? And what is our world going to look like in a world where robotics, and we train robots to do human actions, right? Yeah. Where anything you could do on a computer screen can be automated. What does that look like for us? And I like to think to myself, what does that look like for events? What kind of experiences do we want? In this day and age where like collecting leads and doing sales doesn't really matter anymore because the robots are doing everything for us, what does that look like for a business event? And that's where like I like to look at what other people are saying in the AI space to understand like how close are we to that, and how are other industries reacting to that sort of world. So then that way I can apply it back to what we're doing.
That is super interesting. You're making my brain go go wonky right now trying to
Yeah,
just
for
think
sure. I
about
think
this.
most reactions is like, I'm scared, dog. Yeah, I don't want to think about it. But like, we have to be prepared if we want to be 6 steps ahead.
Agreed. Dang, Will, all the mic drops going on here. Not even asking for them. You're just like, boom, boom, boom,
I
over
gotta
and
get
over
rid
again.
of I gotta get rid of this boom arm so I can just drop the mic
You're like,
always over.
here's another one. Here's another one. Very cheap mics. Very cheap mics. No Yetis. They're too heavy.
No expensive mics this one.
That's right. Well, I know I always do this. And again, you might be very familiar to a lot of our audience, but I gave you a super brief intro. Tell us more about what it means to be the brand ambassador for Bizzabo. What is kind of your day-to-day with that entail? What's your jam with the whole gig for Bizzabo's brand ambassador?
Yeah. Well, kind of coming off my tenure at Bizzabo, where I spent a lot of time working on how do we get Click in as many events as possible. And you mentioned a little bit about Click. We can probably definitely talk about that at some point. For those who aren't familiar with it, I'm gonna assume most people who probably listen to podcasts are a little familiar. If not, I think we did a past episode where we dove deep onto it, where you can go check it out. But for me, like the big thing I'm trying to do is just beat the drum of how amazing this technology is. My goal is that I believe this is a technology that fundamentally can change and transform events. And I'm not saying that in the hyperbolous sense that like, oh yeah, like this audience engagement polling software is going to change your events. Like, no, like I truly believe it's because I was a customer. I then worked so much time and energy onto it. And then now I'm just going out being the brand advocate essentially for it moving forward. Especially as I am somebody who's been planning events and continues to plan very massive events moving forward, essentially saying like, look, this is how you can use these things. And, for those who have been following me or heard of me before, that I also have very strong opinions on where the events industry are. And so essentially what my job is that I just get to continue to do that as part of under the Bizzabo brand, essentially.
I love that you have strong opinions because we want those here. All of our audience have strong opinions. Our guests have strong opinions. And I appreciate you letting us know kind of like you're beating the drum for Click Smart badges and how you believe that technology can really continue to transform the events industry. And I want to clue our audience in. This is actually kind of a part 2, if you will, from us featuring you along with some other panelists in a recent Bizzabo
awesome
webinar.
panelists.
Oh my gosh. And it was a great discussion. So for anyone who's not familiar, we did Bizzabo just hosted a webinar recently, the future of event networking, smarter matches, better conversations. Will was one of the panelists on that. And we're bringing you back onto here because, obviously in a webinar, and you weren't the only panelist, we only have so much time to cover and dig deep into some of these topics, particularly about networking. And so really pleased to have you back on because we want to take this time now. So with that, I'd love to kick off with something that you brought up during the webinar. I think all of us are going to be like, at this phrase, because you brought up how virtual attendees at hybrid events can tend to be treated like second-class citizens.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that all of us were like, yes. Can you expound on that for us? And then possibly on ways that event planners can help avoid treating their attendees like that, especially if they're doing hybrid events where you're going to have people joining remotely.
Totally. Well, I mean, like, I definitely immediately want to go to the how can you fix it? Because I feel like we've all probably experienced it at some point. It's the feeling that, like, if you're attending a webinar or a virtual event, you kind of sit there and go, okay, why should I watch this live right now? Should I why don't I just watch the recording? Number one question I know, and I can tell there's an attendee ready to just get off this webinar is the recording going to be available for later? And if the answer is always yes, but if the answer is okay, great, I now want to tune out and check my email, there's something wrong going around in the design of your virtual and hybrid event. I think, and as we start to lean towards hybrid too, it's this experience that you don't feel like you really want to be there. You feel like, okay, I'm just kind of like passively at getting this information. I think that maybe that passive description is probably the best thing to explain this, is that you just feel like, meh, like I don't even know how to describe it. This is the boring feeling. And so like I wanted to get into like the tactical, how do you do this? But let's start at a very simple level, like making eye contact with the camera, right? If you're doing virtual, right? Like we all try to make eye contact with the camera. We put our scripts up higher, right? We try to make sure the windows of our chats are up higher. But when it comes to hybrid events, for example, there's so many times where we put cameras in the room, and then you hire a speaker, and then all they do is like look at the people in the room. and
Mhm.
engage with them and when they laugh at a joke, and you feel like you're like, well, I'm just this fly on the wall, and that's not an experience that you want. You want somebody who is looking at the camera and talking straight to you. And then I
Mhm.
think that bridges into something I personally try to do as a speaker. And by the way, the way you solve that, it's called tally lights. It's where the light lights up on top of every camera, so the speaker
Yeah.
always looks at it. And it's also hiring speakers that are used to this sort of world. The second piece of this, though, is the engagement that you need. And that for example, if I'm speaking at a hybrid event, virtual event, I want the chat open. And in fact, the
Mhm.
second the chat opens, I'm engaging with it. Obviously, when I'm on stage, I don't have like a keyboard in front of me. But one of the reasons why I have this elaborate setup is that I want to be able to chat with people. So I'm literally, you can see it in the webinar actually. I'm literally chatting as people are going along. I'm replying to them. I'm liking their posts. I'm telling them that was a fire response. I'm saying hi to people. I want them to feel like I'm here with you. And why is this live? And why do I need to experience this? And so, one way that you can do that for a hybrid event, when you're doing virtual, it's just simple. Have the chat open, have your keyboard, work on trying to multitask and move back and forth. It does take a certain skill. So, hire speakers who have that skill, I think, is important. But if you're doing
Mhm.
a hybrid event, it means like, this is something that really shocked me is how many hybrid events post COVID where I got hired and they go, yeah, this is a hybrid event. Cool. Is there going to be a monitor where I can see the chat? And they go, no. And I'm like, why? How do I know who these people are? How do I talk to them? And just as simple as saying, hey, Rachel, I see you out there. And Rachel goes, Will's paying attention to me. Maybe I should pay attention to him. And I
Mhm.
think that can go a very, very long way. And those are just very basic concepts that no one executes on.
I can attest to this. And also for anyone wondering, again, you should go check out the webinar. It is available on demand. Big spoiler there. But you can actually see in the webinar, Will is doing exactly what he's talking about, where he's chatting as well, because he's not talking every second. Like if we were doing the webinar right now or had a live chat, you'd probably be chatting right now as I'm responding and doing that.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
you're actively listening at the same time. Like you said, it's like Liam Neeson. It is a very specific set of skills.
Sometimes
Uh,
it doesn't take a lot though, too, Rach. Like
right.
sometimes it's just as simple as saying I agree, or just liking somebody's post, or just saying oh my gosh I agree, or just saying
Yeah.
hi. Like you don't have to like write out I'm not writing out detailed deep responses to this stuff. I'm not writing a novel. That's where
Yeah.
me talking is meant for. But just showing that I'm here and I see you and I make you
Mhm.
feel heard. That's it. That's everything.
Well, and as you said, it takes that little bit more of effort. It can be very easy, and event planners, our audience out there, we are talking to you right now, it can be so easy to be like, yes, we're going to prioritize people in the room. The speaker's going to be looking at them, maybe occasionally making that eye contact to the camera, but go a step farther than that, knowing that, hey, the way that you know that person joining remotely is engaged is if they chat,
Yes.
if they're
The
engaging or
only way you know.
or reacting or anything like that. But it's really hard if you don't have a speaker or someone set up as a moderator to be not only be, hey, we're reacting to you, but to then bring them into the room. I've definitely been in that situation too. I had an opportunity at one point to be hosting on stage a hybrid event. And it was very much that I think we even had a separate kind of what we called them a hyper mod or something, where they were like, they would join on the camera occasionally and say, here's what's going on in the chat. So everybody felt like, hey, we're still part of this. But
Genius.
does that take extra effort? Yes. Is it worth it? Yeah, because you don't want that second class citizen. It does take that extra effort to be able to bring in and make sure you're including everybody sitting at home. And Will, you made a great point. It is the easiest thing in the world. It's almost second nature to all of us to say, yep, I am mailing it in as an attendee because I'm remote. And because the assumption is probably, and it's a fair assumption, that the event planner and the event is going to treat you like, yep, that's perfectly fine. And instead you want them to be riveted. And I think that, just like you said, it's really needs to be baked in from the very beginning, that hybrid doesn't have to mean that those remote attendees are instantly lower class. Will.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll give another tip to people too. Like fake engagement, like to show people that like, hey, this is live, this is different, is sometimes also really a secret key. Like I can't tell you how many times I've been on a live stream where like, for example, I'm waiting for everyone to log on and come in, and I start reading comments from like a past live stream to
Yep.
show like, hey, I'm reading something is there. Hey, John, it's great to see you. Like even if your employee is the only other one watching, like giving them a shout out and like showing this engagement, I think, can be really, really powerful.
Agreed. So just a few tips there, everybody, just to think about it. And because hybrid's around, it's not going to go away. Obviously virtual's here, in person's here, but it's super key to give everybody that experience. And even your remote people are going to love your event just as much as your in-person are. I want to go into another topic we talked about on the webinar. And this one, there's so many aspects to it. We'll dig in. Inclusivity.
Ooh.
Networking can feel like, well, that's automatically inclusive because we're trying to bring people, human beings together. It's just going to happen just because of person to person connection. But you and I both know, and our audience knows, that is not the case. What are some ways that you have experienced or even designed yourself to ensure that broader audiences and their different interaction styles and needs are being included as naturally as possible into an event?
Yeah. Well, I'll use a great example from an event that's actually going on right now called C2 Montreal. Everyone's familiar with this event. I think that probably listens to this show. If you haven't yet, check out the event. It's absolutely incredible. And that was actually the first event where I experienced Click, by the way. And so this was like a game-changing experience for me in so many different ways. But this was a great example of an event that solved for one of my biggest pains as an attendee, which is that I sometimes attend events, believe it or not. I think I may have mentioned this on the webinar, that like I can be a little bit more introverted. In this event I went to, and I knew almost nobody there. I think I got invited by somebody who I knew pretty well, but he was very busy going off and doing his own thing. And I showed up at this event and didn't know anybody at all. And one of the cool things they designed is that they had these ambassadors that essentially what they did is they had tablets with your like attendee profile and everything like that. I'm pretty sure what happened is like you clicked your badge to it, and then that's how they got all your information. But what was cool is I was assigned this very specific person, their very specific email of this person. And I didn't really understand how to utilize this person at first. But when I got there and I kind of settled in, walked around a little bit, I was like, you know what, let me like reach out to this person. Or I think someone said, hey, have you met your ambassador yet? And I was like, no. And they're like, oh, let me go like ping them on the radio. And they came over and like, oh, Will, it's so great to meet you. And I think they were signed like maybe like 30, 40 attendees. Not like it wasn't the point where it was like insanely, but I felt like I was getting this kind of VIP experience. First of all. But what was great about it is they kind of used it as a chance to guide me in a way that tell me like, where should I go? What should I do? And they were the ones I think that first told me about brain dates. And I was like, oh, like, let me go check out this brain dates thing. And that ended up being completely game changing for me if you've ever experienced brain dates before. And so my thoughts around networking and how can we design a more inclusive experience is that we have to recognize that a lot of people are coming into events and don't know anybody at all. For those extroverted people who just literally could grab someone on the subway and would be inviting them to their wedding in 5 minutes, like those people you don't have to worry about. They thrive on this. But what you need to solve for is like the me's of the world, where like I'm extroverted, I like talking to people, but I'm just introverted enough to not enjoy that experience, and creates that friction. So maybe, for example, you're doing your opening night social event as an example. These are very common. Instead of just being like, hey, yeah, take the bus over and come over here and hope to God you meet somebody and you know somebody. Like maybe, for example, having someone there who greets you, like sees you by name, knows who you are and says, oh, Will, okay, cool. Oh, I see that you're at this company. Like, it's really great to meet you. And maybe assigning your staff somebody that can kind of guide someone in and bring them into the experience. And let's be honest, like, who those people are because they usually walk in and they're like, their eyes are kind of darting all over the place. They're kind of like trying not to make eye contact with people, right? They're not sitting there already in a conversation as they're walking in the door. Yeah. Or they're not like beelining it straight in because they know where their friends are. They're usually like a little bit more nervous, let's say. And read those people and maybe bringing them in and saying like, oh, let me introduce you to someone. And sometimes it's just another staff member. Right. Or sometimes it's just, someone else that the organizer probably knows and can introduce them to, just to create that initial spark. And to make that person feel comfortable, because sometimes that maybe that connection will be forever and amazing and super deep. But let's be honest, like sometimes you just need that like initial push that ends up helping. And I think that like in this day and age, to call it out, like I think that far too often do we require alcohol to be the kind of the social lubricant to be like, oh yeah, get your drinks. And then all of a sudden I become chatty. Well, let's be honest. Like I'll say this as an attendee. I don't drink. Right. And so like, I'm not going to go here and be like, oh yeah, like I'm all of a sudden I'm one beer in and all of a sudden I want to talk to people. Yeah. It's more so like I show up and if I can't start to have fun, and have these things to do. And maybe, for example, also, here's another idea. I'm all over the place a little bit right now, but
Bring it.
creating an activity that people can do that doesn't require them. It's not just like, hey, put you in a room, or hey, here's a dance floor and here's music and this is the thing to do. And hopefully you bond and make friends. But more so like maybe there's a game or maybe there's something. And sometimes those little interactions have you bump shoulders with somebody, figuratively, and you end up saying, "Oh wow, oh you work at XYZ company, that's great," and then you end up talking and then continuing that conversation out of that activity into the rest of the event.
Yeah.
And I think those things that are very consciously designed for thinking about the fact that there are people out there that are like me who seem extroverted but really are introverted. I think we can create a more inclusive experience as well. And that obviously, I think I talked about this on the webinar, but this doesn't even dive into the neurodivergent side of the audience. This
Right.
doesn't dive into the people who are maybe more afraid of social environments, not just introverted, but like truly actually terrified to talk to other people. Like
Yeah.
we need to be able to design for those experiences even more intentionally as well.
Like we said, it is, not to be pun intended here, but all inclusive of literally everything it can be. Like I am a very, very extroverted person, but who knows if on the way to that event that morning, I fell on the pavement or something, twisted my ankle, and now I'm, and I cracked
Oh
my
yeah.
phone screen. So now I'm like angry and I've got all that going on in my brain. And I'm thinking, oh God, I got to go replace
And you
that.
don't
Or
have your phone to retreat to when you need that like kind of that
exactly.
escape.
It's just all there. I'm like, well, I'm here and I'm here and I, you come in. And so every one of those interactions matters. Like you said, whether you've got like a dedicated ambassador that you set up to say, hey, I'm going to approach you. I know you, act like I know you at least, and create that first familiarity touch point. But that can usher in the rest of the day. You really literally can make or break someone's event experience. I'm using all the puns here today because that is the name of the podcast. I can't help myself, everyone. I can't. But you really can make or break their experience at your event if you at least give them some kind of that positive. Doesn't have to be major, doesn't have to be like, hey everybody, it's Will Curran, let's all welcome him into the event and give applause or anything.
Oh
Like
yeah,
you
that might
said,
be more terrifying than for some people
exactly, that
than
might
that.
be the worst nightmare for us, one attendee versus another. But like you said, just that little bit of effort can go such a long way. And then sometimes, yes, your attendees can then take care of each other. You're just helping bridge that gap out the gate and get things warmed up for them, and that can make a big difference for them.
Totally. Checking in with your attendees. I mean, just, I think making it everybody's job just to make sure that everybody's having a good time. Do you need anything? Like, it's the idea that, like, we all hate to be called party planners, right? But we have to go back to the things that we would do if we were planning a party.
Yeah.
We bring together people who maybe don't know each other. You know what you always do is you just walk around. Hey, you guys doing okay? Do you need anything to drink? Do you blah, blah, blah? Like, just let me know. Like, and if you can't do that as the organizer because you're too busy doing XYZ, whatever, a million things, hats that we all have to wear, well, hey, maybe having someone on staff be that, or hiring someone to be that one that does the check-in. So then if someone's like, sitting on their phone in the couch for like a half an hour and you just see that they're not even a half an hour, 5 minutes, you see someone's on their phone, check in
Yeah.
with it. Hey, how you doing? Like, is there anything I can do? Oh yeah, yeah, I'm just like doing break. Do you need me to introduce you to anybody? Is there anyone I can help connect? Who are you trying to meet?
Yeah.
Like making those things, because it's far too often we go, oh yeah, like no, I'm good, everything's fine. Okay, and then we move on. But in reality, like that, the I'm good and moving on isn't what people are looking for.
Right.
Now, if someone says, yeah, honestly, I'm just a little overwhelmed. I just talked to a lot of people. I need to check in. My daughter's at home. Blah.
Right.
Cool, awesome. Well, you let me know if you need anything, and then
Yeah.
just 20 minutes later, circle back. Is that person still on their phone?
Mm-hmm.
Or, are they now immersed back into the event?
Right. Yeah, it can make a big difference, like you said. I actually am going to refer back to a couple of our last podcast episodes or previous podcast episodes. We actually did do interview with one of my favorite event planners, Jessica Connolly, who's a friend of mine, but
Oh,
she
awesome.
does that too. She'll walk around. She could easily stay back in a green room and just let the staff take care of it, but she likes to go around and just look and then just randomly ask people how their event's going. And they don't know that she is the person who's pulling all the strings in the background, but she wants
That's
to
good.
hear actively, like, how are you enjoying the event? And if sometimes they are really honest, she's like, that's good to know. And, but also gives them a face to talk to. And then we did do another episode. And I love that you brought up that alcohol does not have to be the catalyst for all networking.
For
of
sure.
all types.
For
Like
sure.
everybody's just going to start chatting because now they're holding a beverage in their hand. And fortunately, thankfully, as our prior episodes have revealed, the events industry is evolving beyond that.
Definitely.
Sure, there's going to be
Definitely.
bars, cash bars, open bars, whatever, but there will also be options for people who are like, can I have tea? Or can I have like a non-alcoholic beverage that is still tastes great, it isn't just like a sugar high now that you're going to make me go there are a number of ways to mitigate around that. And so I really appreciate that you brought that up too, because that it can be something, all these things that we default to
Totally.
as event planners. And like you said, go back to when you had to plan a little intimate dinner party and it was on you to make sure everybody enjoyed themselves. We'll be right back with more event experience after the break. Let's face it, venting won't fix outdated, overpriced event management software that lacks the support and features you need. But Bizzabo's Event Experience operating system will. Say goodbye to your frustrating legacy event software and hello to building more events that matter. Visit Bizzabo.com, that's Bizzabo.com, to learn more about the Event Experience OS, Click Smart Badge, and more. We're back with Will Curran to tackle the question of planning for multiple networking spaces in your event.
Those things totally scale. And if you're not Jessica who can go around and talk to people, I bet you someone on your staff.
Yes.
And let's say, for example, you don't even have someone on your staff. I bet you have a friend who you could say, hey, I need you to come to my event and I need you to do this. Or they're a partner. You always know that one person who you put them in a room and they become best friends with everybody.
Yeah.
Yep. We all know those people.
We all do.
I'm thinking like McCall from Bizzabo right now. She
Yes.
like literally can talk to anybody and become best friends with them. And so like McCall, I would hire her in a second to be that person to go work the room.
Absolutely. But everybody knows somebody. We've all got those people. Absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, let me ask you one other question, though, about this can be a bit of a challenge. This also will be dependent upon the size of the event. So one of the questions from our audience in the webinar was about when there's more than one networking space. So maybe you do have an event where you've got multiple networking spaces for different segments of your audience. So maybe you've got interest-based connections in one spot, maybe some human resource activities over here. Maybe it's, if you're doing different industries, supply and demands over here, etc. How do we navigate that when we've got multiple networking spaces and again, trying to make sure everybody's accomplishing this thing called networking?
Yeah. I actually think like the idea that you're looking for something very specific in your networking is actually a really important part of the design, right? Like I think when people generally think of networking, I think the first thing that comes to mind is like sales, right? And let's be honest, like some people want to network for other reasons other than just to be sold or to sell.
Yeah.
Right. Let's use this as an example. I'm no longer in this way, but some people might. Is that like they might be looking for career progression? Mm-hmm. They want to meet more people from different companies in the hopes that someday when a job opens up at those companies, that they'll be considered for it. Right. That is a completely different type of networking than, hey, I want to hear about your product and I want to be sold to. And let's be honest, like I think as much as we think that no one wants to be sold to, no one wants to have that environment, sometimes there are times that we do need that. Mm-hmm. And I'll use myself as an example, is that like I love staying on top of the bleeding edge. And a lot of times I want to kind of know what's going on and I want to see everything. And so, for me, sometimes just doing a quick once around with the exhibit hall and kind of looking around and seeing like what's new can be very, very powerful for me because I need to know what that stuff is versus me being more on the career oriented side. Then there's other type of total networking that we see happen too, which is some people really just want to find friends. Yeah. Let's be honest. Like in this day and age, I'm getting older. And so I'm realizing, and I apologize for anybody who's going to totally be like, I know how old Will is because I've heard him speak before. And you are not old, Will. I hate you. But like, I'm pushing my mid-30s now. Right. And we always make this joke that when you start hitting your 30s, like making friends is hard. And I see it too amongst when I meet new people, how there's a lot of people in my age group who are just trying to make friends. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a thing that we think just naturally happens. But in reality, like we need to design specifically sometimes for that and have those different areas. I think physically making those separate is a great thing because as much as we have great technologies, and this is an example, I think when, we can sometimes rely too much on technology is that, like, for example, Click has the ability to make it where badges light up different things, and you can kind of like tell what people want. This is really great for this.
Yeah.
But sometimes like really like actually physically separating people to be able to give that space can be huge. Especially, I'll give a big firm jab of my knife into loud networking environments. Right? And this is the problem too when we just decide to put everyone in the same space. No matter even if you don't have a DJ blasting music, please stop doing that. Put it, make the dance floor separate. And as someone who loves blasting music and dancing, that most events where I'm attending for professional reasons, I don't want that.
Right.
Or there's a loud band, obviously sometimes even more louder. Or, sometimes it's just about the room acoustics that makes it hard. And as somebody who talk about inclusive environments is hard of hearing because I've gone to too many loud concerts in one lifetime, we need to recognize that networking doesn't get made easier when it's harder to hear the person that you need. So sometimes bringing it into smaller spaces where it's quieter can go even further. It's one reason why also like I like it for the meal networking aspect of things. Like if you've seen me speak recently and maybe the last like 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 years, I feel like I've been ranting about this one forever, is that we need to, like, my opinion, for catering, push attendees to go off site to eat lunches as an example. And the reason why is because like I've been there before when you put 1,000 attendees in round tables, you're 6 feet apart from each other. Good luck. I'm never going to hear what's on the other side of that table.
That's right.
I can hear the person next to me, this person next to me, and maybe one other person. But that's going to be so awkward for me. So like maybe pushing into smaller tables, more intimate lunches, more intimate meals together, I think can be really, really powerful. So, man, I went way off topic on this one.
No, it was great.
But like, I think that physical spaces can be really powerful. And then it also makes it easier for people to say, like, look, if I'm looking to meet someone based on this, then this is where Click is super powerful, is like, I visually know where it is.
Yeah.
In this case, I physically know where it is. And I can always count on this being the zone. Now, the challenge with it, though, is that if you have a very, very big event, I might not ever know that space exists. And that's, again, I think where concepts like the ambassador and stuff, where if you have an event with a lot of complexity and you're pushing people into these like really unique situations, you really got to make sure that you're guiding them. And in my opinion, just saying there's a map and good luck finding it, it's more about making sure that everyone's aware of it. And I think like HubSpot's inbound conference did this really well. I think the first year that I went, I didn't know there was this whole zone that I think it was for HubSpot for startups. And this was when I was first starting my company. I think I was part of HubSpot for startups. And they were like, oh, we have this whole zone where you can go and talk to other people who have startups. And I was like, I had no idea this existed. Nice. Right. Yeah. And it was great because if it wasn't for that person pushing me towards that physical location, I would have never known.
Right. Well, and that's what's so key too. Like you said, whether it's ambassadors or just having information, making sure people know, but letting them self-select. And you're so right too. This goes right back to what we were just talking about in the prior question about, if you do put everyone at, a round table that's among, room full of like 19 other round tables and everybody's trying to yell across, like, well, what about the person that doesn't want to raise their voice? They don't ever raise their voice. Maybe they don't. That's just not how they communicate. But now to even be a part of that conversation, they would have to. Well, they're not going to do that, or if they do, they're going to be feeling way out of their comfort zone and they're going to interact differently than they would if they were feeling natural. But instead of that, and maybe some people are really into that, they're like, no, I don't mind. This is great. I love all this sensory input. but you give people who are like, nope, that's not my jam. Give them the option to go somewhere else. We're like, hey, it's quieter, a little more intimate, but also if you want to be quiet by yourself, that's great. But also there's other people who are into that as well. But you're right. It's just, it's got to be about that awareness and being able to provide those different avenues, the environments, but also facilitate that people can actually find those places where they know they belong.
I'll drop a new idea on people's heads too for this one, is that a big problem with events, especially large conferences, is that it's about energy management. You know how many times we've used the I'm exhausted, IMEX is a marathon, not a sprint, as an example for our industry, right? Like, and the thing is, like, how can you as an organizer protect your attendees' energy levels? And then in this case too, specifically your voice. How many times have you left a conference and your voice is just shot for like a couple days or whatever it may be? It's usually because you're having to yell, you're having to do things loudly. So how can we design the event to make it so we don't have to do that. That you don't have to tell your attendees. It's up to you to control your energy levels. But more so, how can I maybe make it like a slow build throughout? And I harp this back to like my DJ days, that like it was my job as the DJ that like you slowly go into it. You come out hard to build the energy real quick to get them excited, but you don't go 1000% all the way through. But instead you go hard to get the energy going. Now you got their attention. Now you slowly build them up all the way to the end. So they are using every little bit of energy. In this case, I'm saying like completely deplete them of energy. That was my job as a DJ, is to make you exhausted and sweaty at the end. But like as a conference, my goal is not to make it so I leave going, I'm just so exhausted. I need to take a week off. It should be, I'm so energized now that I'm going to get even more done than I've ever done before.
That's right. That is key. And good luck to everybody. I appreciate that. And, if I would drop my mic, I would, I don't want to hurt my mic.
If it wasn't attached to a mic arm, right?
Yes, so my boom arm there. But that was a mic drop moment. Thank you for bringing that in, because it is that energy management. That is going to be another topic we have to have you back on for. Well, easiest question of all. And this again alludes to earlier. And everyone, once we know this information, please take your shoe recommendations there forthwith. Where can we find and follow you online, Will?
Easiest place is willcurran.com. So just look at the title of this podcast. It's got my name in it. Just do that.com. That has all links to all the places where I am active on, where you can reach me, as well as like just if you want to learn a little bit more about Will and what's my background, all that stuff is in there. Great ways to hire me for speaking engagements, consulting, all that fun stuff. willcurran.com is the place to be.
Thanks again to Will Curran for joining us on Event Experience. And thank you for listening. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love to hear it. Connect with us on social and subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you're listening. Also, don't forget to share the show with your colleagues and friends. You can find transcripts of each episode and key takeaways on bizzabo.com/podcast. On behalf of the team, thank you. We'll gather again soon for a new episode of Event Experience.